Thank you. I'm pleased to welcome you to Pakistan. Your first trip in an official position. I am told that you've been here before in a different capacity, but now in your official capacity, you're in Pakistan, and we welcome you. I wanted to share, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a good discussion on a host of things. Obviously, Afghanistan dominated the conversation. The evolving situation in Afghanistan is of paramount importance to them, us, everyone, the region and the world. So we did have a good discussion on that, and we also had a very good discussion on where our bilateral relations stand. And I'm happy to share that they are strong. They are valued on both sides, and we have fortunately now developed a platform called the ESD platform, the Enhanced Strategic Dialogue Platform, for further engagement and to have frank, candid discussions so that there are tangible outcomes from those discussions. I've invited the Foreign Secretary that the next meeting, the next review of that ESD should take place as soon as possible. We have to host it in Islamabad, and we will be happy to host you in Islamabad for that dialogue. And the idea is that through this dialogue, we upgrade our relationship to a different level, to a higher level. That is my desire. On Afghanistan, I shared my assessment with the Foreign Secretary of the evolving situation. Things are evolving. They're nothing certain yet, but they're evolving. And we are both hoping that they evolve in the right direction, the direction of peace and stability. You want that, I want that, the region wants that, the world wants that. And so we are in this partnership for peace. I also shared what, in our view, should be the way forward. And I am happy to share that there's a convergence on the steps that need to be taken in the days ahead. We also had a discussion, and I pointed out the steps taken by the government of Pakistan, the tremendous progress made by Pakistan on the issue of FATF. Pakistan is very keen to get out of the grey list, and we have taken steps, legislative steps, administrative steps, and concrete steps that are being today recognized by the world. I have urged the Foreign Secretary to be supportive to Pakistan on the steps that we have taken on that score. Red list. Obviously is an issue that has been discussed in Pakistan. I did touch on that subject, on how people feel about it and what needs to be done to get Pakistan off the red list into the amber list. And I'm happy that there is a meeting at the technical level that has been arranged on Monday. Dr. Faisal Sultan will be representing Pakistan and putting forward Pakistan's point of view. And I've also suggested a number of steps that can be taken, that make both sides comfortable on how to deal and how to overcome this challenge, and how to get Pakistan into the amber list. On the whole, it was a frank, candid discussion, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, can I say what a pleasure it is to be here in Pakistan, to have a very good, constructive, cordial meeting with His Excellency Foreign Minister Qureshi, both on Afghanistan but also the opportunities for the bilateral relationship, and I look forward to seeing the Prime Minister later on today. The bedrock, the basis of the UK-Pakistan relationship is very strong, And like His Excellency, the UK has desire, the will, and to take it to the next level. We also have very clear and shared interests in the future of Afghanistan. After the Kabul airlift, we evacuated over 15,000 people to the UK, which was unprecedented for modern times, certainly for the UK. And we're working together to continue the secure, safe passage for those who haven't yet made it out of Afghanistan, whether they're British nationals or indeed those who have worked for us. It was important to have the opportunity, and I'm very grateful to the government for making this possible, to go up to Torkham to see for myself the situation on the ground and talk to people on the ground and really understand it at that level. As for the UK, we're very mindful of the situation for Afghanistan's neighbours. We will be shouldering our humanitarian responsibilities. We've increased our aid budget for Afghanistan this year to £286 million, and we will also be supporting those countries who face the greatest demands for those who may be displaced in the weeks ahead. We've also sent a team, a 15-person rapid deployment team to the region as a whole to make sure that we can help with the logistics, the practical arrangements that we also discussed for allowing people safely and securely to cross borders if it's into third countries to get back to the UK. And of course that's a way of easing the burden on some of Afghanistan's neighbours. I'm also pleased to announce that today we're releasing the first tranche of that extra aid money that I made to Afghanistan's neighbours, and that will include Pakistan, so that there is the money to provide the basics, the shelter, the household necessities, the sanitation for those who come across the border. We recognise this problem. We want to be part of the solution with such a key partner. We also stand by our commitments for Afghanistan's future, and I think there are a number of priorities that we discussed today. The humanitarian lifeline, preserving regional stability, holding the Taliban to the assurances that they've made, making sure that deeds follow words, and of course making sure that Afghanistan cannot be used and will not be used as a base or a safe haven for terrorist groups in the future. We're building, and it's important for us all to work together to build an international grouping, coalition around, these core elements, around safety, around all the other elements, strategic and otherwise, whether it's through the G7, NATO, we've had a recent UN Security Council resolution, and of course the regional partners are going to be absolutely key to forging a way forward. And Pakistan's support and role will be vital, and if we come together in that way, with all of those that are interested and want a positive way forward, we will be able to exercise the maximum moderating and positive influence on the Taliban. We have a shared interest in supporting a stable and peaceful future for Afghanistan, and I thought with a very good conversation we had about the common and the commonality of interest in how we pursue that going forward. We also discussed all of the bilateral issues that His Excellency raised. We listened, we understand the concerns on issues like the Red List, and all the more important that as close partners we really intensify the bilateral relationship, particularly with, I think, a big anniversary for our bilateral relations which is coming next year. Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. I understand the ministers have time for a couple of questions. Would you kindly introduce yourself while posing the question? A gentleman on the left side. Right side, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Foreign Secretary. Welcome to Pakistan. This is Naveed Siddiqui from Dawn News. I have a question regarding the Red List. In the backdrop of Red List decision, the relationship between Pakistan and the UK seems to be strained. Even the people of Pakistan are very much annoyed with this biased decision of the British government. How can the ties between the two friendly countries can be improved, sir? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Look, I totally understand the impact it has, on both Pakistani and British nationals. Our community is one of the great things about our relationship. It's built on the very personal relations by the diaspora in this country and the British Pakistani diaspora in the UK. So these things are important. I'm also commend the efforts of the government of Pakistan to contain the pandemic. We're working to manage the impact of COVID on both countries. We have a shared interest. It's an international challenge, not a domestic or national level challenge. So we do understand that this is a sensitive issue and a difficult issue. We base our decisions on the technical evidence, the scientific basis, and I understand that that's often contested, which is all the more reason why it's, I think, good that the Pakistan's Special Advisor to Prime Minister Khan, Dr. Sultan, will be holding expert-level talks with UK public health authorities. We want to find a way through. No one wants Pakistan off the red list more than I do, but we take these decisions at a technical level, and I think the smart thing for us to do is work together to enable that to happen as soon as safely and responsibly can be done.
There's a request from the center, the lady in the middle.
Hello, Nicola Karim from the BBC. The first one to the Foreign Secretary. We've seen the Taliban issue a statement today following the meeting with Simon Gass in Qatar. Can you tell us if anything substantial came out of that meeting? And secondly, the £286 million in aid, who will that be handed to? And to Mr. Qureshi, hello sir, can you tell me if your relationship with the Taliban is going to be conditions based, and if so, what will those conditions be? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So we need to face up to the new reality in Afghanistan. We've got a new chargé d'affaires for Afghanistan based in Doha, Martin Longdon, and on top of that, Simon Gass, the Prime Minister's Special Envoy. The approach that we're taking is we don't recognise the Taliban as a government. Actually, the UK doesn't engage in the practice of recognising governments as opposed to states. But we do see the importance of being able to engage and have a direct line of communication. And the reason being is clearly there are a whole range of issues that need to be discussed, including, first and foremost at the moment, the question of safe passage of British nationals and our so-called Arab workers, the Afghans who work for the UK government. We need to be able to convey direct messages on these things. There are particular cases outstanding which I won't go into because of the sensitivity, but we need to be able to have that dialogue. And I would say more generally, the Taliban has made a series of undertakings, and some of them are positive at the level of words, but we need to test them and see that they translate into deeds. Can't do that unless we have at least some channel of dialogue. In terms of the aid, look, there are two areas of focus, and again this comes back to the test, some of the early tests for the Taliban. No one wants to see the economic and social fabric of Afghanistan collapse. I can't see how that would be in the interest of the Taliban, let alone ordinary Afghans. We certainly don't want to see that to happen. So we would be willing not to fund aid via the Taliban, but through the humanitarian organisations that operate inside Afghanistan. For that to happen, there needs to be a safe and secure environment. So again, that's an early test for the Taliban. But we're willing to make sure that we do our bit with the international community to fund the humanitarian agencies, the lifeline for ordinary Afghans, but there needs to be a safe, a permissive environment for that. We also, as I mentioned, will support those regional partners, particularly like Pakistan, who I can imagine is very concerned about the risk of numbers coming across the border. We'll want to make sure we can support those partners in the region deal with that. And I think that's the holistic approach, the strategic approach we're taking.
Responding to your question, ma'am, you said, will our relations be condition-based? Right. Well, when we determine conditions, we have to determine choices available. You know, some have the choice of getting up and leaving. We don't have that choice. We are neighbors. We have to coexist. Geography ties us together. So our approach has to be somewhat different, realistic. As the Foreign Secretary said, there's a new reality that's come about. And what we have said, we have been, while the negotiations were on in Doha, and we facilitated the peace process, it couldn't come to a sort of a conclusion. There was a stalemate. But what we said was, we have no favorites. Now, we've learned over the years that Afghanistan is a country which comprises of different ethnic groups. Taliban represents one, and a prominent one, but the others. And that is why we have said it is in your interest, as neighbors and friends and well-wishers, to adopt an inclusive approach. When we are dealing with Afghanistan, please do not forget that there are certain compulsions that we have to deal with that perhaps you don't have to. For example, there are daily crossings of about 20 to 25,000 people in normal times. That's a huge number. Can we block them? No, we can't. Can we regulate them? Yes, we should. Are there risks? Yes, there are. There are organizations over there that are not friendly to you, us, or anyone. So we have to guard against that as well. Bulk of their trade goes through Pakistan. Do we keep our borders open? Can we close them? And if we do close them, are we contributing to a humanitarian crisis over there? Right? And if we have to trade with them, then who do we talk to? Anyone who's in charge. Engaging with that authority is a compulsion that we have to deal with. So, recognizing these challenges, Pakistan has said it's for Afghans to decide about their future. We will engage with a government that has the backing of the people of Afghanistan. Our focus is on the people of Afghanistan. We want to help the people of Afghanistan because we feel they have suffered. They've suffered for decades, and we honestly feel that there is an opportunity. After 40 years, there is a real opportunity for peace. So if there's anyone who is advocating peace and stability, it's in Taliban is a friend, and we will work with that reality. We are waiting to see what happens in the next few days, like you, with eyes and ears open.
Question from the gentleman here.
Thank you. This is Zulkarnain from ARY News. Mr. Secretary, do you believe that the speedy takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban, it's indicate intelligence failure? Thank you.
Look, the takeover, I think it's fair to say, was faster than anyone had anticipated, not just the United Kingdom or NATO allies, but I was talking with our friends here, and I suspect the Taliban and ordinary Afghans were taken by surprise. We can look at all the different factors that relate to it, but I think there was a common, widespread surprise at the speed with which the consolidation of power happened.
We have a question from the lady in the middle, in the pink.
Hi, I'm Emma Clark from AFP, and this is a question for Mr. Raab. You said that you want nations to exert maximum moderating influence. What are you looking for from the Taliban? And also, is there a danger of pushing them too far and the group turning inward and embracing radical tendencies?
I think it's a good question. I think we need to set some early tests. Of course, actually on the evacuation between the middle of August and the end of August, there was dialogue on the ground, and we wouldn't have got more than 15,000 people out without at least some measure of constructive dialogue with the Taliban. So we note that. There have been further undertakings made, and so to address your point, I think we would hold them to the undertakings that they have made, and test the sincerity and the will to deliver on those. The kinds of things we're talking about are reflected now in a UN Security Council resolution that the UK pushed very strongly for with France and the US. We noticed that Russia and China abstained, acquiesced, I like to think of it. We need to bring a stronger basic consensus about those issues. I think the Security Council resolution raises many of the issues that I've described to you today, and also His Excellency the Foreign Minister. And we need to try and forge a stronger group of countries and a wider group of countries around those basic issues. More inclusive government, safe passage out, no safe haven for terrorism, the humanitarian lifeline that it's in all sides' interest to see allowed and preserved to preserve regional stability, and a range of other things. So I think it's important at this stage to set or to judge the Taliban by these early, initial, probably quite modest tests, and see whether they can deliver. And I hope that answers and reconciles what I think is a reasonable challenge to the international community. Yes, I think that's what I'm describing. If you said early tests based on what they have said they're willing to do, I think that's a perfectly reasonable approach. Any regime or set of leaders to undertakings they've made, I think is reasonable.
Can we have a question from the gentleman in the middle?
This is Zaid Farooq Malik, editor of the Daily Metro Watch. Mr. Qureshi, you have tell us about all the things, Afghanistan, FATF, Red List. You did not spoke on Kashmir. It's a big issue. There is a lot of human rights violations. The dead bodies are not safe. They cannot bury them on their will. Your comments, please, sir.
I got your question. In fact, I did. And I drew the attention of the Foreign Secretary on how Sayyid Ali Gilani's family was treated yesterday, the way his body was snatched by the security forces, couldn't even get a decent burial. That's a fundamental right, which the family and the old man at 92 was denied. And people feel very strongly about it. And what they do not realize, yeah, okay, you can stop that, but there will be funerals all over Pakistan. There's going to be one today in Islamabad. Every parliamentarian, every minister, the president, everyone will go there. You know, had you not been there, I would have been there. Right? So you cannot suppress, human feelings and sentiments. So I did talk about that. The atrocities, yes. And let me be honest, the Foreign Secretary very clearly said, our position on Kashmir is known. It's a stated position. But that does not stop us from raising human rights issues. And if they do that, thank you.
Well, you'll know the long-standing position of the UK is that it is for India and Pakistan to find a lasting political resolution to the situation in Kashmir, which we certainly want to see. It's got to take into account the wishes of the Kashmiri people. It's not for the UK to prescribe or impose a solution or even to act as a mediator. We encourage both sides to maintain a positive dialogue, a constructive dialogue, which is going to be necessary if there's going to be a lasting diplomatic solution. Of course, the pace, the scope, the modalities will be for them to decide.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am afraid we don't have time for more questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
वज़ीर ख़ारिजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी और बरतानवी हम मनसब की मुश्तरका प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस जारी थी। वज़ीर ख़ारिजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी ने कहा कि दो तरफ़ा ताल्लुक़ात को मज़ीद वसअत देना चाहते हैं। पाकिस्तान और बरतानिया की ख्वाहिश है कि अफ़गानिस्तान में अमन कायम हो। पाकिस्तान FATF की ग्रे लिस्ट से निकलने का ख्वाहिशमंद है और इस सिलसिले में बरतानिया से बात भी हुई है। हमने अफ़गानिस्तान की ताज़ा सूरत हाल पर तबादला ख्याल किया है। बरतानवी वज़ीर ख़ारिजा डोमिनिक रॉब ने कहा कि शाह महमूद कुरैशी से ये मुलाकात इंतहाई मुस्बत रही है, मुस्बत बातचीत हुई है। अफगानिस्तान में अमन के ख्वाहा हैं। पाकिस्तान और अफगानिस्तान की माली मदद भी जारी रहेगी। दौरा पाकिस्तान पर उन्हें बहुत खुशी है। शाह महमूद कुरैशी से मुस्बत और तामीरी बातचीत हुई है और उन्होंने कहा कि दौरा पाकिस्तान मुस्बत रहा है। खित्ते में पाकिस्तान का किरदार इंतहाई अहमियत का हामिल है। पाकिस्तान की जानिब से जो कोशिशें की जा रही हैं वो भी कार फरमा है।